Hi, Kim here from Able Recruitment. How awful is it coming back to work after you've had a really good holiday? This is something that I was recently thinking about. On the back of a really long year, I was able to take a couple of weeks where I could really switch off and relax, and it was just amazing. But I found that coming back to work on that first day was pretty horrendous. I did not want to sit still and be locked in and confined at my desk all day long. I was having such a hard time. I found myself Googling how to motivate yourself to come back to work after a holiday. The internet has provided plenty of ideas. I've compiled those for you, and I'm just going to run through each one and a little snippet about how that might help you out. The first one is to reset your space. Give your desk a bit of a wipe over and a dust. Get rid of stuff and clutter that you're not necessarily using. I had a look through the stuff that I had in my drawers. You know how you just accumulate pens and stationery and USB things and all those bits and pieces that you think you need at the ready. I like to just kind of keep all of that stuff off my desk unless I'm using it constantly. So that all got a bit of a refresh and a tidy and a chuck out, so I highly recommend that. Second recommendation was to make sure that we are taking breaks, and this is one that I am not that great at, and I think perhaps not many of us are. Science apparently tells us that you can really only concentrate on any particular thing for between 30 and 90 minutes maximum, depending on what sort of work you're doing and what your personal capacity is for that particular type of work. So at the end of an hour and a half, I suppose if you haven't already taken a break, that's the time where you can set a little timer for yourself or have something in the calendar or a ping on your phone just to remind you to get up, go for a walk, whether it's to actually get out of the building and outside in the fresh air, amazing if you can, and if not, like a quick wander around the office or around your home if you're working at home and back to your desk. So that's definitely one that I've been practicing implementing, and I'm going to really try and stick to those good habits going forward. The next recommendation is to make sure that you're doing what you can to set yourself up for success. My brain was starting to feel a bit overwhelmed. Again, I don't think I'm unusual in that regard when you've got heaps that you feel like you have to do, and you know, a lot of it's work, some of it's personal stuff, some of it's kid stuff, some of it's family stuff, some of it's just wanting to make sure that I get my exercise in and whatever. What you're supposed to do, and I have done there, is do a massive brain dump where you just write out on one bit of paper. Don't try and categorise or prioritise at this point. You just get it all out on a piece of paper, or you can type it if you want, and then from there categorise into each area and then prioritise each of those items. And then what I've done further to that is, and I'll try and do this most of the time, but just have my 3 most important tasks for the day. So that's what I start with every morning, and as long as I can tick those things off, then I feel like everything else that gets done is a bonus and you can kind of feel productive. So that's definitely helped me. The next recommendation came under a few different headings. I've called it all work and no play is not good. And this is just making sure that you inject some fun into your day and into your week, because it can be so easy to just sit down at your desk on a Monday morning, you get to Friday afternoon and wonder where the week has gone. Recommendations are to do stuff like get out and meet friends for lunch. You don't have to be doing that every day, and it doesn't have to be long lunches, but just, you know, once or twice a week, make sure you've got something like that in there. Maybe you can get out and go for a walk in the sun and the fresh air, and even listen to a podcast or something just for 20 minutes here and there. But I think the key is that you intentionally block these opportunities into your calendar, and you really try your very best to do them. Except that sometimes stuff's going to happen and you just won't be able to do it, and you might miss out on a few, but at least you'll get to the end of the week and you've had not just a hard slogging week. That's the idea. So the next recommendation is about mindset, and this is something that I crack on about all of the time. I'm always saying to people, if you speak to yourself the same way that you would speak to a young child or that you'd speak to a good friend, then you're probably on the right track, because we do tend to get into these patterns where we speak pretty harshly to ourselves and You might be upset with yourself because you really have high expectations, and those expectations are not necessarily realistic, and then that's sort of a bit of a vicious cycle. So if you speak kindly to yourself and just recognise it is hard transitioning back to work after you've had a holiday. Nobody wants to put their closed-in shoes on and be wearing restrictive clothes and being stuck at the desk all day if you've spent the last 2 weeks lying on the beach drinking margaritas. So just be really mindful that it is a transition, and it might take you a couple of days, and you're not a bad person if you're not completely 100% motivated 9 a.m. on that first Monday morning. And the last tip is a bit of a bonus, and this is really to implement some of these strategies and do it properly, see if it helps. And if you're starting to think, maybe my motivation isn't really about just transitioning out of a holiday, maybe this lack of motivation is more about maybe I'm in the wrong job, maybe I've done what I need to do in this job and it's time to move on, something like that. Perhaps it's time to have a chat with your favourite recruiter where you can just talk with us about what your plans are, what you're thinking, what you'd like to achieve. You don't necessarily have to commit to applying and going for interviews and accepting new jobs right now, but you might just want to have a bit of a plan in place about what you're wanting to do next. So we'd love to help you with that when the time comes as well. I hope that these tips have helped you and that you do have a bit of an easier time than I did transitioning back to work. Let's get cracking.